It's buzzy, man.
Hi, Brandon.
Hi, Nathan.
Welcome to Birmingham.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming all the way over from New Zealand.
A bit tired, a bit
Yeah.
jet lagged. That's
Yeah.
all right. I
It's
appreciate
fun.
it.
Yeah, it's been good though, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
I'd like to know who you are, what you do, who you work for, what you're passionate about.
So you already mentioned my name. It's Brandon. Surname is van Blerk. So I've got a bit of a Dutch heritage. Originally from South Africa, born in South Africa, immigrated to New Zealand 13 years ago. I am an entrepreneur and an innovator. My skill sets are within systems engineering and software engineering, very basic software engineering, mainly systems engineering. And I founded a company called Tether 5.5 years ago, which is a business that specializes in building performance benchmarking and diagnostics. So we're like the doctor for your building, essentially. Do you want me to talk about my hurts and pains of my past?
If you would like to talk about the hurts and pain.
Don't think we have enough time.
What I would like to know about is how you ended up in New Zealand from a Dutch background.
From South Africa.
You said Dutch first, though, wasn't it? Right?
Dutch surname. Dutch
So
name, born in South Africa.
So no Dutch.
There's Dutch
family?
heritage.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting. It's actually English, Scottish, Dutch. I've got a range of weird heritage. But born in South Africa. That's where we need to start. Born in South Africa. How did I end up in New Zealand? Like any silly man following a woman. So I met a girl in Thailand who was Australian, which made me end up in New Zealand. It didn't work out, so it's fine.
We all looked
but I ended up in New Zealand as a result. So there's a lot more detail, but like I said, there's not a big enough couch for me to lay on for this conversation.
It's interesting because when I ask anybody who's migrated somewhere, how come you're there? It's always, I met a girl and then I moved and I hate it a lot.
That's what we do as men, we shift.
Yeah. Funny enough, it never seems to work out either.
No.
But,
Yeah. Reason, season, or lifetime, right? So that was a reason and a bit of a season.
And where's the rest of your family now? Your family?
Most of them in New Zealand, brothers in London, in the UK, cousins and aunts and uncles are in America. So I've got no family left in South Africa. Everyone's basically around the world. So global family makes Christmas difficult,
Yeah. Especially New Zealand, which is we've established
on
over
the
this
arse
week
end of the
is
world.
nowhere.
Yeah,
It's literally nowhere. It's really far away.
26 hours travel, mental. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then we've got Neil.
Hi. Thank you very much for having me today.
No, it's been great. So, who are you, Neil? What do you do? Where are you coming from?
So, my name is Neil Campbell. My original background when I trained it was actually chemistry and material science a long time ago. But I head up basically consumer technology innovation for Cambridge Design Partnership, which is a sort of full end-to-end consultancy that develops products and digital services from market strategy and opportunity through to developing, prototyping new concepts and products, through to developing those products and transfer to mass manufacture. We also short-run manufacture, but then transferred to mass manufacture anywhere in the world, which is really great fun. It's a lot of stuff I do is weird, wacky, which is really cool. And I work across so many industries. Some of the favorite ones are things like baby and parenting, which is really cool, through to smart office and buildings, through ag tech, and including next generation smart homes, and even stuff like pest control, which I find absolutely fascinating because we do things like super low cost anti-mosquito stuff for sub-Saharan Africa and Mekong Delta and everything, trying to eradicate malaria and dengue and things like that, which is really cool. And I work with a lot of really amazing people. I'm going to break the cycle you were talking about because I went out to Japan to work and I met a girl there and brought her back to the UK, and we're still very happily married.
Congratulations.
And we have a 9-year-old daughter. She's lovely. And so hopefully I've broken that cycle. But honestly, again, Japan's a lovely place, and that's how we met. Actually, very very briefly. It was on a flight, which was quite cool.
It's really weird. Me and Neil met few months ago now on a return flight from Japan, and we'll be sitting next to each other. And we did the whole, what do you do?
It's a bit close.
Yeah. And then Neil, I was like, oh God, he's this guy talking to me. What's he going to talk about now? I have to listen to something all day. And then actually, I think you describe yourself as similar to Q from James Bond.
Yes.
So the tech guy. I was like, okay. And as we descended, the seatbelt sight came off, and we could reach into our luggage. Neil pulled out several gadgets and devices and proved himself to be a very good Q with different things. I was like, oh my God, he actually is. And then what was really weird is I happened to have some gadgets in my bag.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was so cool.
It was a really big geeky conversation.
It was very geeky.
So I'm getting my gadgets out. I'm like, oh yeah, I'd have been in Japan as well. I've got here's my gadget, here's yours. And then we spoke from there, and then we realised that actually Neil could really help us in our ventures and what we're trying to do. And he went from there, and we visited.
Yeah. It's a fun journey. It's still continuing. We hope it continues for many years to come. It's really awesome. And I think you're very much on the cutting edge. And hopefully in this discussion we can talk about where things could go in the world and where it's moving. It's awesome. But there's many different facets to it. And I think we'll discuss that in a minute.
And last but not least, Scarlett.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. How you're here.
Well, I've never moved for love, and and nor have I made anybody move countries for me either. But yes,
Not yet.
Not yet. Yes, very true. My name is Scarlett Allen-Horton. I am the founder of Harperfox Search Partners, which is a multi-award-winning, ethical, purpose-led search firm that specialises in placing senior females and ethnic minorities across STEM sectors globally. So that's what we do. I am also the ambassador for the Recruitment Employment Confederation for EDI, and really passionate, basically, about changing what the future of boardrooms looks like.
Yeah.
That's kind of the key bit. Do a number of other things, but that's kind of the basis.
You've got time to do other things after doing all of that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So now we know who everybody is. Hopefully you'll see that we've got lots of different angles that we could possibly come from when we talk around the future of work, whether it's technology, whether it's changing the face of boardrooms. Because I think that is, for me, culture, and I always say to my team here, culture is number one. No matter what you do, you need to have the right culture, the right leadership, and you need to have the right people to be able to drive that culture, because culture starts with people.
And they say culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Exactly.
There you go.
So true.
Yes.
Yeah. So how are you changing the face of boardrooms?
Doing great things like this, being in different environments, different businesses. But for us personally, a number of different things, but we ensure that we have a high placement rate of senior females and ethnic minorities into senior positions. So typically we place 43% diverse talent, which is very, very high in comparison to the industry average of around 11%. 11. Yeah, so so that's what we're doing. And we do that by having extremely high stats in other areas as well. So it's based on excellence. That's really, really important for us. We engage in lots of different things. We run lots of initiatives. We did a STEM event, which some of your colleagues were at. Yeah. We did an in-person event last year. That went really well. We've just done some video mailers and launched a new EDI guide, which is around inclusive excellence and building diverse, high-performing teams, because the high-performance bit is absolutely key, bringing different perspectives to the table. So yeah, a multitude of different things, but those are some of the key things.
Why STEM?
Oh, it's like a passion. So I personally went into recruitment about 12 years ago now, was launched into these sectors that quite honestly I didn't even understand. Like initially it was engineering, and I just thought, I don't know, when they say engineering, we're talking a factory, you make things, like what are we talking about here? And then it kind of transpired and evolved, I guess, from there into energy. So we do a lot in green sort of energy, sustainability, huge amount within that space globally. And now that industry has gone massively into tech. And that's what's brought us into this, for us, which is a relatively new sector, quite honestly, in the last couple of years that we've gone into the tech space, and it's been really interesting. It's really nice to see the different ways that people think, because I have to say, sector-wise, you see some similarities, and we're really passionate about bringing different people from different sectors into different sectors, because that in itself is a diverse perspective. So, yeah.
That's interesting. It's also a challenge. How do you... So you're saying that you place women into quite senior roles.
Yeah.
How do you find women without it sounding weird that you're searching for women? Because I always have that same struggle, because hiring software engineers that are female is not easy.
No.
But then also you can't put on an advert no males, please, because then you go in the opposite way.
Yeah, there's a whole piece around positive discrimination, isn't there? And there's a tokenism piece that we need to be really careful of. We've all been there, and there's like one female.
Yeah,
so
you go.
Female.
Yeah, let me just get a woman into the office, please. Doesn't matter if they're good or not. We go, there we go. There's the token female in the corner of the office.
There's the token female. Yeah. Now we've got a diverse.
And you've also got a diverse male sitting there, and you go, okay, great.
We've cracked it. No, you haven't.
Yeah.
And so it's a really fine balance, and really, really focused on actually making sure that the people that we bring into business are obviously super credible, and they're people that are going to thrive in the environment, because there's no point in hoping to attract black talent, for example, or female talent into the business, and then actually the culture, which you touched on earlier, is actually not supportive of this type of talent coming into the organisation, because we want everybody to thrive within the business, no matter the minority. So in answer to your question, we can't just focus on one element, but what we do is we focus on making sure that the shortlists that we provide for candidates are diverse.
Okay.
And then it's up to the client then. And it's ensuring that, whatever assessments are happening or whatever interview panels are happening, that they're bringing in the most credible person, but they have a multitude of different options in front of them, rather than maybe the same type of profile.
Yes.
And if you're not working with a partner that's maybe passionate about this and works across different sector areas, this isn't even going to be a thought process. We come, they say, as humans, we come to the table and we've straight away got around 150 biases. So before we've even spoken, you've probably come to about 150 conclusions on me before I've even spoken, or vice versa, without consciously knowing it. So what's really important is that actually, how are we attracting different types of talent, and where are we reaching out to these different pools of talent, and trying to be as conscious as possible. And the best way to do that, aside from the diverse shortlist, is actually by having really diverse interview panels and fair processes. So, yeah.
You almost make it sound easy.
No, it's not. It's not. And there's a big deficit. There's no getting away. You're talking about, here you said a female software development engineer. I know straight away, that's going to be really damn hard.
It is. Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you about that. But it might be in other areas that's maybe a less, and there will be, of course, female software development engineers. We know that.
We've got some out there.
Yeah, of course.
They exist.
They absolutely do. But it might be that actually, we're looking at how do we attract that type of profile, or what transitional skills is there from a different sector that somebody could maybe train slightly differently into this sector to be able to conduct that role, or what other areas that are maybe, I don't know, less technical in a different area where there's a transitional skill set that's already been used in a different sector. So it's looking at all of those different things,
Yeah.
UX design. That's a good one.
Actually,
Human factors.
Yeah, it's a good point, because we're not just technology businesses. And so we've got a kind of like a student placement program here. And I was speaking to one of the girls that's on it, Hasna, her name is, and she's been brought in, and she didn't really know what tech businesses were, other than she just wanted to be in tech. But there's an assumption that if you're in a tech business, that you are a coder or a developer or some form. And I'm like, there's so much you can do. I said, in my team, it's anything from content production to design work to user research. And then you've got coding, and then you've got so many fields within coding. You could be doing anything.
Yeah.
So it's really making sure that you explain to people that there's a big world out there in technology, and you could be doing anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a big part of that is the responsibility of the organisations that want to attract more diverse talent to be in places and be explaining that, where maybe that's not always seen, heard. There might not be relatives that work in these firms. You know, you often find like a doctor. You tend to find that one of their children goes on to be a doctor as well. You know, it's often what you see is what you think it's possible to be. So that's a really important factor too.
Yeah, I've got 2 daughters at home, and I'm continuously saying, please learn to code.
Me too. And neither of them want to, and I'm like, for goodness sake, please.
So my daughter's wants to be an inventor. That's one of the things. She wants lots of things she wants to be. But that's one thing. And I've seen over the years, and I think you're very right, that the STEM field has come on very heavily with advancement of a lot more females going into that field, and incredibly talented as well. And we work in consumer products, industrial and medical. We do things like developing surgical robots, so it's really cool. But I've seen there's a lot of females more in the medical area to start with, in the technology field. Less so in the industrial areas, the heavy industry types areas. But that's still changing, which is really, really good. But I've seen a lot of change over the years in the medical area, which is fantastic. And they've actually, from my experience, and it's limited, human factors teams, which are essential if you develop any medical device, you have to, as part of the regulations, you have to have that studies done. That's very dominated, female or dominated from my limited experience. And I think that there are areas inside all these technological fields that women are starting to build their own niche, as well as bringing in people from all over the world, from other cultures and backgrounds that have very different visions on things, which is really good in brainstorms. I had a very good friend of mine. We were doing frugal innovation, which is a really doing things very, very cheap. So if you go to the third world, you go, okay, how much you've got to spend on this product? 10 cents. What can you make for 10 cents? And some people go, well, one person came from Pakistan, and they're basically their background, because my grandfather used to make this thing out of a Coke can, and it worked. And so it's like, oh, that's really clever, that's brilliant, But it was only because we had those different people from different backgrounds that we go, let's make something out of Coke. They're everywhere. They're on the floor. You can pick it up, they're free. Now you're starting from zero.
Yeah, and that's the main advantage right there. It's that is the main advantage to having a diverse team. It's that there's better problem-solving abilities, and every business, to be successful, needs to solve a multitude of different problems. That's the reality. So, yeah, really interesting.
Here's the question, though, because the difference between what some people think diversity is and genuine diversity, and I've challenged lots of people in the past around genuine diversity, because 2 people may look different, but might be exactly the same. And I think some people that I've seen fall into the trap of going, we need to be more diverse. So let's get 25% of our workforce to be women, 25% from some ethnic background, and then we'll be okay for the other 50% to be British. And then you go, actually, you've got this guy here who's of an ethnic background, who actually grew up in the same locations as the other guy who's non-ethnic, with the same religion or beliefs or background or upbringing, and actually are pretty much identical in their thought process. So genuine diversity, I think, is also something that you have to really take into account, because I think here in my team, people are from completely different backgrounds, completely different, and we'll have a conversation of things I've never even considered in the past. Whether it's a religious belief, whether it's just an area they grew up in and do something different, whether it's a language difference. So one of the people that helped set this up was Theo, who's from Belgium. There we go. I never forget, because she speaks 4 languages. Which one are you actually from? So she's from Belgium, and she'll say things, and she'll say, you can't use that phrase because in Europe that means this. And you go, oh, I never considered that. So that when you get genuine diversity, I think it's like a superpower.
Yeah, I think that is such a beautiful point. I couldn't have put it any better. It's different perspectives, bringing different perspectives to the table, different backgrounds, different experiences. Yeah. The people may look the same. Yeah. That is technically absolutely what could happen.
Yeah, end up with, and that's why I think changing the face of boardrooms is important, because if you understand that from the top, then it won't be a problem. To actually make sure that that's the reality of your entire organisation. Yeah.
Difficult to measure backgrounds, though.
Yes.
That's the challenge. How do you report on backgrounds?
How do you report on it? What do you think?
I don't think you can. That's
Wow.
that's the challenge. I mean, there's no matrix around backgrounds where you have to go, well, I need someone from this country, someone from that country, someone who's poor, someone who's had, top tier
Someone who's
education.
poor.
Yeah, exactly. Someone who's
How poor
brought up
were you growing
in the
up?
projects, and then someone who's come from some high-end school. You can't do that. It's just too difficult. So
There are ways to kind of measure it. So we did some work a while ago, and not so much the background, but more interests and what kind of things you follow, what kind of things you're interested in generally, can help with some of the measurability of that.
You've got some classical measurements as well, like personality types.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's diversity in ethnicity, gender, but then also personality types. So there's this huge matrix of opportunity space, should we say, of different people. That's what makes this all interesting. But and those have been well defined over a long time. But I wonder if you can build on that. To understand is there
like
any way-
Myers-Briggs.
Yes,
Just get everyone to
Yeah.
do Myers-Briggs tests.
But maybe going a bit further, and maybe there's other things maybe you can add in the metadata you were capturing. Maybe there's a way of making a way of sort of, not measuring people. That's not really nice. But I mean, more the case of like expressing, I'm this type of person and I'm that type of person. It's fun. So you got people that are very, very focused, very, very good at what they do, and also maybe they have a more lean thinking in that way, and they're, about getting things to the bottom line. And then you've got other people who are more creative, visionary, entrepreneurs. They're all these different levels, but again, that sort of another diversity or dynamic range of those individuals based on a cultural or a background perspective. That maybe that's possible.
Yeah, like characteristics almost, isn't it? Yeah, what motivates maybe.
Yeah.
I was thinking even like affinity groups could be a way around it. So perhaps, kind of back to interests really, but maybe groups that they would associate themselves with or be interested in, that would give an array of, but we're getting into the micro diversity. Here we are, but it's good. That's interesting. It's the next level.
It isn't, but as an entrepreneur, it's so difficult to hire with that level of micro attention to diversity, because you're just trying to barely keep the lights on, and you're like, you're waiting, you want maximum output for as little money as possible. So it's all about trying to maximize your output, and humans are a big part of that. It's kind of getting people that are willing to share the dream and work for nothing at much longer hours, because they get to share in something that we create together. From an entrepreneurial perspective, that's what we look for, is the diversity has to have one thing in common, which you're willing to work your ass off for a future outcome that may or may not happen for not much money. And so if you can tick those boxes, then you can come from anywhere. It doesn't matter, as long as you can add to the dream. And then you can, eventually when you get big enough, then you can have the privilege of choice.
I mean, I'd be interested to know, if you don't mind me asking, is how diverse is your team on that basis? Because I suspect it might be.
No, I've got...
Well, remember, it's in
12.
New Zealand.
Yeah,
I've
true.
got 12, so that's very diverse. I've got 12 employees, 2 are female, and the rest are all white males. In their 30s.
The answer is not very.
Okay, so not very interesting.
Yeah, but everyone's engineering. So that's the one thing about Tether, which is quite unique, is we've all engineers. So it's an engineering-led organization. So we don't have a marketing function or a sales function or an admin function, or we've just hired a head of sales and customer success, and they're two guys. So it's not like we didn't try to find diverse things. It just had to fit those metrics. Like, are you willing to? And they were the ones that stepped up to the plate. So I think I might have failed the diversity test. But,
No, it's a small team still. So,
it's a small team.
when it's hundreds and hundreds of people or
Yeah, of course.
thousands, and you see that,
We're
that's
actually-
when it's sort of, whereas that's not the reality.
I
there.
am looking for a female board member currently. Like, we've just lost our chair, which is
You've got someone at higher can hire one for
Well,
you.
I know, and, exactly, and focusing on diversity as well.
Yeah.
So we've just lost the chair to our board. It's been with us for 5.5 years and had to do some other things. So we're now looking for another board member or 2 board members. And I really do want a female at the board table. I just think it will add so much
Different
more.
dynamic.
A different dynamic for sure.
Yeah. And diverse attracts diverse. Remember that.
That's
So,
a good point. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think one of the good reasons that we have to have so many diverse people is because they bring people they already know or recommend people in their own communities, which means when we're hiring a new role, it's almost easy to find diverse talent because you're like, well, do you know anybody? Do you know anyone in your local community, someone looking for work? And I think that's how we are diverse. One of the reasons.
Yeah.
Because I also think you've got to give people a chance, because if you go back far enough and you see some of the disadvantages of some of the ethnic cultures that we've had, then not everyone has the opportunity to be at a level that other people are at. So sometimes you've got to give them the opportunity to prove themselves, I think.
And you know something else I would say, when I walked into your offices, I mean, it is breathing culture. You know, straight away we're looking at the mission, we're looking at that, we're seeing what's happening around. I can see the culture, not even hardly known very much about it or sitting in it for very long. I was, thought, oh yeah, you could see that would be attractive to lots of different people and lots of different types of people. Yeah.
That's really good. That's what we're going for. That's great.
Mission accomplished.
So one of the things that I'm passionate about and we're passionate about, and we talked about it briefly earlier on, the fulfillment through work message that Rico has, and being able to have fulfilling jobs, roles, lives in general. And as part of that, you've got to look at teams and the future of teams. We've done some research. There's things like trust. There's knowing a combined mission. There's the culture. And there's, I guess, like you were kind of saying, the desire to be working in that field and moving forward. One of the challenges we have is how do you build the future of teams?
Oof, that's a tough one. I mean, this is going to be a slight divergent idea, but I think just work in general over the next 10 years is going to be completely flipped on its head, like completely. I think there's whole industries that are going to die.
Yeah.
I think most of the services industry is going to die. I think we'll be left in a world where people are having to try and find work in areas that they've never worked before. The idea of what value actually is going to change. I think the economy of human connection will become far more valuable than it is today, because services become so cheap and commodified with AI and a whole bunch of other things going on. So the idea of team is actually completely different in a world like that, where you're dealing with so much automation and so much revolution around how we actually render our services, that idea of team is not collaborative from a work sense necessarily. It's collaborative from a relationship and potentially trade perspective. It's buzzy, man.
That's quite interesting. A colleague of mine was saying something similar about, if you're ever able to work from home and, you're not wedded to an office, or, do companies in the future look measuring people by their collaborative efforts or their performance thing? Maybe say it's through LinkedIn, where you have a LinkedIn score where that person is, highly connected, highly, motivated, etc. And this is kind of like more 1984 for me, very scary. But at the end of the day, is that the way it's going? As in, because you're now international, right? I mean, since COVID really allowed everybody to work from home and then nothing fall over. You don't have to go into that office in the middle of London that's very expensive to rent. People can work from home. More people are taking, especially in the STEM field, with the exception of those people who have to be in a lab or have to be bashing metal or something, and creating things and soldering stuff. And even then, some of those people can work at home, and you've got 3D printers and that nowadays. But how are you going to measure the performance on that when there isn't someone line managing by seeing you in face to face? It's interesting how people are going to get, how's the CV going to basically mature or evolve?
Yeah, and we've done some work around that, and I think it's going to go to be more of a video type resume is what we're seeing. They're the kind of workshops that we're doing with the next generation. But it is very interesting because, especially with AI, I mean, what what then differentiates us to be who we actually are.
Exactly.
You know, so I think those kind of communication skills, how we present ourselves, or that side of things, what makes us uniquely us, is actually probably going to be our biggest selling point.
Isn't there a danger there? So with video CVs, that if you're not very good at speaking and presenting yourself, that you end up at the bottom of the pile.
Potentially.
No, you
depending on the role.
just clone your voice and your face and get it out.
Exactly.
Just
It's
a
true.
deep fake of yourself.
It's true.
Best presenter of all time.
I think I saw an article not long ago of someone who submitted something like 9,000 job applications by using AI and getting 40 interviews,
Wow.
Yeah.
which is dangerous.
It's like, what does it mean to work? Like philosophically speaking, what will it mean? Ultimately, our jobs are to generate revenue, right? We try to create something, create value in the world. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The idea of not all products work. In fact, 95% of them fail. Startups, that's what the startup life is. So you try to create value and you put a price on it and you sell that to get something in return, and you build a team as a result. And that team all works for
Well,
you're rolling your eyes.
Well, that's why. So what I disagree with is that we are here to generate revenue.
Yeah.
I think, and this is the idea of fulfillment through work, is if you can find something you're genuinely passionate in, you happen to work to better the world in some ways, the idea. So if there is a lot of process automation with AI and taking the mundane out and focusing on allowing people to be creative individuals working towards challenges that matter for the human species, if we can get to that and you can be fulfilled in what you do, then you happen to get paid for what you like.
Well, no, it depends on whether the world thinks the same.
Yeah.
Because if the world doesn't agree with your passion, good luck. You're not getting reciprocated for anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of, the world needs to agree that what you find valuable is worth paying for, unfortunately, and it's a luxury that you have being in a big organization, that you sometimes take for granted, that you just get paid a salary for doing the things that you love. But when you're running a business and you've started something from scratch, when the bank account, which I've been a number of occasions, you're looking at staring down the barrel of not paying your bills at the end of the month, no one rescues you because you're following your passion. No one pays your bills because you're doing what you love. You have to try and find a way to bring yourself out. That's the brutal truth, unfortunately.
It is, and you're at the bare face of business, which I am, so I can totally relate to you. But upon building teams, they are saying, the research is showing exactly what you're saying, which is actually people want to feel that they are fulfilled and they are doing something good for the world, and especially the next generations as well beneath us. That is like it's right up there for them. It's actually not even making money; it's feeling valued. Of course, everyone wants to make money and have a nice lifestyle, the majority of, but feeling valued and actually feeling like they're making a difference. So I think a big part of building out team, building out business proposition is actually centred around that purpose piece and that fulfilment piece.
So on a similar note, I mean, our company, Cambridge Design Partnership, is actually an employee-owned company. So it's a new type of business model. I think John Lewis is the same.
Yeah.
And there were three founders of the company originally, and then they sold the company back to the employees who were all employees, and that's a really completely different way of looking at it. So we are working, and there's the basic business practices to keep us afloat, make a profit, all the rest of it, but we all share in that profit. Okay, there's also some great tax incentives on your bonuses as well, but it's the British government made, which is fantastic. But the thing is, we're all working in the same direction. We're pulling in the same direction. And that's really changed the kind of the feeling of the culture. We already had a really good culture. They set us up really well for that. The founders and the people that were managing, they're still there. They're still part of the management team. But we have a say, and we're very, in that company, in our company, we're part of, we're very big in sustainability. We did some really great work in developing things like pulp-based cardboard bottles and things. So made the Pulpex technology, helped Pulpex for Diageo and Unilever and those sorts of people to make cardboard bottles to replace plastic bottles. So sustainability is quite core, and we're trying to take that and trying to become carbon neutral as a company as well. And that was really because the employees were interested in it. So that culture was there, that push there. And again, that diversity thing is also part of that. You know, again, what do we want to be as a company, and how do we work together? But again, the bottom line is you've got to pay payroll, right? And there's it's finding that balance, but also still to not lose your collective vision and camaraderie, because we have a lot of fun, but we also do a lot of serious work. But we also have a lot of fun.
They have a cinema
That's the way
as
it
well
should be. Yeah.
on site.
Yeah, we have a
Wow.
cinema.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And when I went, I think you were just showing Barbie.
That was it. Yeah,
Barbie was on.
It's brilliant. It's fantastic.
It was
got-
really what you were saying is it was overwhelmingly came through when we visited. Like you were saying, hey, you could get a bit of a feel for this place. When I went to see the Cambridge Design Partnership team, there was a sense that they all were a part of that business,
Yeah.
and they were all collectively happy to make decisions together towards the success of the business, but also their own passions individually, which I think was great.
The other ethos we have is be helpful. So it's like, even if a customer comes to us and go, we want to make this, and you know this other widget exists and they're already out there, we don't go, oh yes, we'll take your money and we'll make this. No. Go and talk to those people. So it's all about being honest, being helpful.
Ethical.
But that's core to us. And then sometimes saying, I don't know if you should really make this. It's not them. There are challenges in that particular market, or so helping them understand that maybe they want to rethink something, having their best interest in heart. And again, that comes from being employee owned. I think we just want to be nice, helpful, and do some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that model. Like a real huge fan of shared ownership. Like that's my plan. That's my vision as well. And it's really interesting to hear how you say the culture shift. Yeah. Because it's just not that top-down approach. And I think that is the way that things are going to move forward. Everyone wants to be in control of their own destiny, whether that's through entrepreneurship, is it solopreneurship? There's all these preneurships, mompreneurship. I'm hearing preneurship all the time. But
Mompreneurship.
Oh, yeah, mompreneur and, all of those things. I've been called that a few times. I'm like,
Does that make me a dad entrepreneur?
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
That's another one. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So maybe your challenge isn't.
Got lots of challenges.
Because I think what you're doing and some of the stuff that I'll ask you to explain in a moment around some of the state housing and stuff, the work that you've done there is incredibly ethical and is helping build a better future. I think where you're let down is the world not allowing people to focus on their fulfilling journeys when they're brand new ventures. I think some countries are great. I think Sweden, is really good at that. A lot of people move over there to innovate and do something because the government will help.
Yeah.
And I think if we got to a world where universal basic income was a thing and people could, if AI was helping so much, we could actually get on to doing good stuff. People like yourselves and you who've done your own business, you're able to actually get supported and do that. Then if that goes away a little bit, you can focus on building something.
I find it incredibly irritating that I have to earn money. Incredibly, because
Yeah.
I would, if I didn't, I would just focus on innovation because I absolutely love it. I'm not a money-driven guy at all. I mean, I put most of my life savings to start my company, my own personal investment into the business, because I wanted to start it with my friends and do something cool, And the fact that I have, over the 5.5 years, we've had COVID, I had to raise capital. I've now got shareholders, and shareholders want a return on investment, and now I have to deal with all of that, where really what I want to do is just build cool shit with my friends.
Yeah.
It's very irritating.
Yeah. And I think you'll find there's a lot of people like that.
Hence why there's lots of people that are employees.
Yes.
Because that is them. That's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. But yeah, I mean, it's a journey on its own, the whole entrepreneur side of things. But it's exciting. It has its pros and cons. Like our team is unbelievable. We have a bit like yours. I haven't been to your office, but I assume we share a similar trait in terms of that camaraderie. Like we're best of mates, and we have been. The whole team is just huge friends. I mean, when I get back to Auckland, we've got a 1 week hackathon where we twice a year we'll rent a random Airbnb somewhere in New Zealand, like normally with really cool entertainment, and we'll just spend 4 or 5 days, like deving for 12, 14 hours of the day, while like food and booze and everything is supplied. And then the last day we have a massive party with a DJ and everything. And it's kind of just,
That sounds pretty cool.
yeah. And it's all just about creativity. It's like, what do you want to develop? And we'll ship features, or like, it would be just the most amazing experience. And it's not because I want to get output. It's because we want to come together, and we just love being in another space and experiencing an Airbnb like by the beach with like hot tub. Like this next one we've got a hot tub and a pool table and a table tennis table. It's freaking amazing.
You sure this is work?
Yeah. And the company pays for it, so it's awesome.
That sounds great.
It's worth it. Yeah.
But what I'm hearing is connection.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a really, really key point, because COVID did show us that we can work remotely, but also the research shows us that actually the vast majority, they crave connection. Like our mental state is healthier and happier with engagement, be it a day a week, 2 days a week, whatever that looks like. And I think that combination is critical.
So, Scarlett, you segued perfectly into a device that we at Rico have been working on. So you mentioned engagement.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the things that I pulled out of my bag on the plane when I met Neil was a device that you wear around your neck, and it measures who's interacting with who within an office environment. And the idea here is, can we measure engagement? So for us as technology providers, and one of the things we said earlier on is how do we measure diversity or diversity of thought or whatever it might be? If you can measure who's interacting with who, because it's one thing getting them into the same company, but if they never speak, what's the point of having a diverse workforce that never speak to each other and actually end up into their own cliques and areas and never interact with each other? So the device we're working on, which may or may not go well and may or may not sell, like you said, if people don't want to buy it, it's hard work. But our goal is to be able to have some measurability of these factors so that we can help people make the best teams.
Yeah, wonderful.
But do you think something like that would work? What are our feelings around wearing a device that measures who we interact with?
Yeah, okay, thank you. My initial thoughts are that depends on so many different factors, like the environment we're in, the culture of that environment, where literally logistically people are sitting and the teams are set up, what it looks like in general sort of engagement, what the affinity groups are that the business is set up. There's so many different factors there that could result in different outcomes. It's interesting. That said, I certainly think it's really interesting. And one thing I definitely know about ED&I is it's very data-driven.
Yeah.
If we haven't got the data, then we can't make improvements. And we know that just as businesses in general, don't we?
You're just guessing then, aren't you?
Absolutely. So I think it's very interesting indeed.
Because you saw the facility, right? And I think it's a good point to what you say, because when I bought it back here, because it was new, people hadn't really seen it. Some people were like, this is great, it sounds really cool, I can't wait to wear it. Some people, I'd never wear something like that, I don't want to be tracked.
Oh, yeah.
But when you go to the 3L facility in Japan, it's part of the building, it's part of what it's always been, and people don't think twice about walking into the building, putting one on, and getting on with their day.
Is there a different cultural piece there to consider as well?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
So what does it actually measure? So what does it do?
So it measures where you are within any given space. So if we were all wearing them now, it would know that we are all in this room, so where we are, so our proximity to other people. But it also knows when you're speaking and when you're not speaking. So if it knew that me and you were in the room next door, it would also know who spoke the most and who didn't speak. And then the new device also knows whether you were leaning like
How
you
does
are
it know
now.
that?
Wow.
Because it's got a microphone built into it.
Oh, okay.
So then the new one's got a heart rate monitor on the back.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
So
It's very intense.
and it can be, but also I'm assuming we're all wearing heart rate monitors on our
Very
wrist
true.
right now.
I just thought
Two.
the same thing.
Yeah, you got two.
Wow.
So-
Wow.
oh, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So it's a cultural norm. If you go back 5 years ago and say, I want you to wear a heart rate monitor permanently, but it depends on what data you're giving back to the individual and how you're actually handling it to how people would feel about having it on.
Yeah.
So the new one knows whether you're leaning back and forward, whether you're standing or whether you're sitting. That way then we know that in some circumstances if you're leaning forward, you might be more engaged or you might not be. But there is an element of personality to that model to really figure out what it means for you.
I think it's too much data. I don't think you need it. So here's an idea for engagement.
Oh?
Right. I think all you need is an app. and you have gamification around it. And once a day, if you sign up, you get sent a random person you have to go and talk to with 5 questions you have to answer. And you have to go and find that person. And if you find that person and answer the questions that are given to you, you get an incentive. Maybe it's like £5 or a coffee or
That's a good idea.
Or something. Thanks.
No, that's a good idea.
TM.
I think
But isn't that-
gamification.
Gamification's a big thing, right?
Isn't that managing different things?
It is different.
Yeah.
Is it a connection that you wanted
Yours
to?
is connection. Yours is,
Yeah.
well, what is the dynamic? How does that work?
You're
What is
putting
the-
something back in to
Yeah.
actually
Interesting.
force
Great
that
idea,
change.
though.
And all I'm saying is this will measure it.
Yeah, but
How you know that's making a difference.
Yours is an assumption, whereas ours is data-driven, where you're learning something.
But,
Hopefully there's connection there,
but
right?
you've confounded
Yeah, but there's
the
two different objectives, I think.
Right.
Yeah,
Is
you've
it?
confounded the experiment
Oh,
by
have I?
incentivizing.
Oh, bugger.
So, but if you think about it, if
Very
you,
Humans,
true,
humans
actually.
need incentives. So.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's to drive behavioural change. But in this case, we just I could think of it as a fantastic R&D tool. Let's start with it as that, so it's not scary. As an R&D tool, say you would talk about high performance teams. For instance, if you were able to see how this team who have been high performing in a company work, okay, it's the fact that 2 of them always talk to accounts or marketing all the time, and they have a relationship there. These other teams don't have that relationship. They don't perform so well because they don't align with the message or something. I mean, I'm just spitballing an idea. If you can understand what makes a high performance team, can you then mimic that in other parts of the other teams and encourage that engagement? So I could see it as a fantastic way of building your master data set of understanding, which you could help go into a company. Sorry, I just hit the mic. Go into the company and say, we can help you be even better at what you already do well. And here's why, and these are the, here's where your people work really well, and maybe you should do more of that. And this is where it's hindering you, and you should do less of that.
Yeah.
How you implement it's up to you, so you're not, overstepping the mark of your boundaries of your compliance and that. But maybe there's a way of using it as almost like a diagnostic. That could be quite cool.
There's also, we provide some of the data at the moment to you as an individual. So at the moment, we don't share the data with others. And say you went to the office and you're going 3 days a week, but you're only talking to some people. If you could see in your stats in the same way you can see your steps every day.
Yeah.
Actually, I haven't spoken to Nathan for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Although
I'm
we've been
so
in the office 4
intrigued by
times.
this.
Am I doing the right thing?
Maybe she
Yeah.
doesn't like Nathan.
Yeah, maybe she
Maybe.
doesn't. But I'm looking at my stats saying, she hasn't spoken to me for 4 weeks. Eve, what's going on? So, but then I might make a conscious effort to walk over and say, how are you doing? Or you might do the same. Or we might ask why. Is there a reason why we don't have to work together? I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we're talking about engagement and connection, but I'm also thinking, are we focused more on what we're doing rather than who the individuals are?
If you build on top of it another layer.
Yeah,
that's
because
nice.
actually if we're bringing a really high-performing individual into a team, so say we all join your team, how you're super, super high-performing.
So you're saying that you're all high performing, or
Yeah, say you're more high-performing than us. Say you're doubled up on
I'll take that.
performance. Yeah. We know that our performance is going to go up as individuals because we're around you.
Providing we trust him.
That's a good point.
which
And
is why
that's-
trust was another big
Trust
part.
and capability. That's what makes high-performing teams. You have to have...
I sense a
I'm not
difference
sure.
of opinion.
You're not sure?
This is where the conversation
trust
gets
and
juicy.
trust and capability. I agree. I think that's a fantastic point.
Yeah.
But actually, I believe that if you are around individuals that have higher intellect than you or higher performance than you, that generally will match that in some way.
Yeah.
We increase our own. That's generally what happens, and it is a
So
generalisation.
is that the difference between trust and belief? So you believe in someone, don't mean you have to trust them, but you believe in
Isn't
what
one
they
and the
can
same
do.
thing?
So
though?
I'm not saying we report into you.
Mhm.
I'm just saying that we are all of a sudden in a room.
Yeah.
You know,
Around.
Yeah, it's like if we're surrounded by people that just speak Spanish. Let's be honest. We're probably going to go away and pick up our Spanish speaking, in comparison if we weren't. We just are, am I thinking I might play piano because you're great at piano? All of a sudden these seeds are planted. So the point is it the interaction, which I'm sure it is because I'm super into the research, as you can probably tell. Or is there a consideration of the who, which brings us back to the people in the business, actually? And
It's
the
like the
talent.
five friend rule, right?
Yes.
Show me your top 5
It's
friends and I'll
exactly
show you
that.
who you are, type thing.
Yeah.
Just extrapolate it out.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I've worked in environments with high-performing, especially salespeople, who
Yeah.
are complete arseholes.
Idiots. Yeah.
And it's just,
Snap.
and they're toxic, but super high-performing, but they're stuck in the business because they're generating results and management love them. But, you know, they piss everybody off and they throw things over their shoulder and they
point.
but, you know, and if you wanted to mimic that, that's not good. That's,
Yeah.
you know,
I must
can you
admit, I've
detect
seen
that?
that as well. That's an interesting point.
yeah. Can you detect it?
Can you? No, but that's a good thing. Can you?
I can see it a
detect
mile away.
You see, well there may be a human element to that diagnostic more than just the technology. But I was wondering, I wonder if you can detect this is a high performing team, but there isn't the toxicity. This is a high performing team. There's a lot of these people you just mentioned, and then how can you take the good and remove the bad?
That's where the trust comes in.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you all trust each other to have each other's back, that then builds the cohesion that you need.
That's why you built in your team, because you said you're all
Trust
really,
and capability. So
really
everybody
solid.
trusts that everyone's going to do their job, and everyone knows that we're in for each other. And it's over and above just work. There's a friendship there. You know, there's a
No
Camaraderie.
micromanaging.
camaraderie. Yeah,
No micromanaging and believing it. You hire these great people
flat.
that you put in place, and you wouldn't hire them if they can't do the job. And then you sit there and micromanage it. That's not great, is it? So exactly. So the trust they'll get on with it. They're professionals.
Yeah,
But
well,
the challenge here, though, so you're, how many people did you say?
12.
12.
Yeah.
I think Rico's 84,000, I think, globally.
Yeah, a few more.
Yeah.
Few more.
Just a
So
few.
I think,
Just a tad.
yeah, at scale and large organizations, I think it gets harder and harder, not only just to know what your culture is, like you were saying, could you put something in for just diagnostic, but how do you make sure when you are that far removed from the founder, if Tether gets huge over the next 5 years and you're even at 10,000 employees, you won't have the friendship, you won't necessarily have the trust, and the vision might get diluted to the point that you don't know why you're there.
Things
So-
have gone crazy in the
Yeah.
hot tub. Like,
Yeah. Who knows what's happened? So
No
that's where it
cameras.
gets hard, right?
there's a disciplinary on your hands. You know?
Yeah.
Then you're removing hot tubs, then the food's gone.
Everyone, no hot tubs for anybody.
Now John's not happy. I mean,
Now you have to check in and check out and go to HR. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's where it gets into a big challenge. I think that's
That's
less
when I won't
fulfilling.
be there. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's when you're doing something else cool, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing we need to solve is how do we enable
but that's the
large
different
organisations.
personality types. That's that right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Correct.
So we haven't got long left because I know Scarlett needs to go,
Yes.
Thanks, Scarlett.
Sorry, I'm a mother of two.
which is also a big problem. I think flexibility in the workplace and allowing people to have family lives is a huge thing. I think I have to go home several times for childcare as well. And it's really hard. And here, it's completely normal. If someone asks me if they can take an hour out to go to the doctors or pick their child up or go parents' evening, I'd say, why are you asking me? Just go. Just do it.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of organisations that they've either come from or they've worked in, they're just scared to even suggest that they can do that.
Yeah.
Which I think why, to your point that you started with, if you change the face of boardrooms, it becomes normal.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it is a cultural thing as well. And that goes back to the point that you were making earlier about the micromanaging and actually people having, the power to be their own decision makers, to bring what they need to the table. And you find that people perform. The vast majority of people actually really love that and perform and actually are a greater asset to the business.
We've installed flexi working, which is good. And I have 11 divisions that report into me. And basically, the division heads are amazing. But they look after their people, and it is that they'll put the hours in. They always do. If they need to go and pick up their kid, or they need to go to the docks, as you say, that's just being human. That's just being And again, because I think we're employee owned as well, gives lots of flexibility. But a lot of people can take their work home, and you'll see that they're on lines on Teams. You see the light being green and they're working, he's even typing stuff to you. It's 8 o'clock at night. Going, but I left it. People just naturally, because they're professional, they feel a little bit guilty and they'll put a little bit extra. So you just trust them. There's trust going back, and they put the time in. They get the job done.
Yeah.
I think that's quite a core part of building a good company together is that trust. I think it is trust. There's trust, but there's belief.
Trust.
I haven't decided yet. But
I think
Maybe
it's
it's all
probably both. Yeah. I think it's probably both. But yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's great to see the change of the face of business in the last sort of, 10 years. I remember I had my daughter, she's going to be 16, and I was young and pregnant and had been promoted, and I just thought, oh my God, I can't, I was like 19, going to be 20. I thought I cannot go and tell my senior, I've been put into this position. And I concealed that I was pregnant for 6 months. Yeah.
God.
I just didn't tell anyone. Yeah. Then went into another environment and didn't tell anyone that I had children for about 18 months because I just thought they're just not going to understand, And then when I was like the top performer there, then I was like, actually,
by the way,
it just so happens I've got these 2 children, and I'm thinking, I might just a little bit of flex, and that's what happened. Whereas now we're having conversations like you've just said. I do the school run pretty much every day. Go back on login. When I was outside your offices, I heard somebody say that I'm just going to the school to grab the children. I'll be back on later. Bye. Wonderful. We're having those conversations. So yeah, for everybody, to make that clear. So yeah,
okay.
Very positive.
I've got one question for each of you before we wrap up, and I've got 2 questions for you. I've got a sneaky question that you're not going to like me to ask. If you could, on the whole subject today, make one difference or one change, or would like one thing to change over the next 3 to 5 years, what would it be, Brandon?
I hope that in the next 5 years or 10 years?
3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years.
I think it's not
Maybe
too
five,
too far in the future, but
maybe 5,
far
not
enough.
quite 3. I hope we learn as society to let people follow their passions more and not worry about the market dynamics. It's pretty much it.
But how would you enable that, though?
I think the market has to enable it as
Okay.
as a collective. Me personally, all I can do is try and grow my business in the way I want to grow it and support my staff and founders and shareholders and things in the best way I possibly can. Leading by example. I certainly don't think I'll be able to change the world at this stage. I'd like to, but I don't think I have the capacity in the next 3 years to do that. But I think that the world will change quite significantly within the next 3 years, and I hope it goes in that direction. We're in a really tumultuous time as a planet right now. Lots of bad shit going on. And I hope we take a turn, and as humanity we come together and learn to fulfill our passions more. Don't think about the money. Rather think about the joy.
Are you singing a song?
Yeah.
Joy.
Neil?
I think if I go, because I'm really more of a hardware, firmware kind of person making products, and with that, I really wish people would do much more in the sort of consumer-centered design approach. And again, I'd like to see more people from, especially females and people with diverse backgrounds, be involved more in STEM, encourage that more. But again, that design thinking, I understand what the real unmet need is. People just sometimes they brush over that. They've got a technology, they want to push technology. And
here's the solution. What's the problem?
Exactly. Yeah. And the other way around, just say what the real unmet needs, and a lot of that can be social and economical based needs. Looking at that sort of jobs to be done methodology, which is a really interesting way that we use human factors people and insights people use. To understand why we do a job. So we need to get the kids out of bed in the morning, get dressed, get ready for school, all that stuff. There's emotional reasons why we do it. Why we get them a good breakfast in the morning, so that the cognitive capabilities will be there for them to learn. So they've got the fuel for the brain and stuff. There's emotional, there's a practical side, functional side, and then any social reason we do those sort of things. Make sure they have a nice clean uniform. They don't go grubby because it's embarrassing, isn't it? If you send your kids off to school grubby, you don't want to do it. But so we break those down and then help that to build better products that are better for people's lives. Yeah, I'd like people to do more work in that area. That's where we try to help. So that's from a very selfish point of view. That's what I would like really more to be done.
It's human-centered design. Yeah. I think it's important. I think it's important to our team here. That's what we do, because if you build software that enables the behavior, being a software person, I'll go back to software, but if you enable the behavior to happen, then it will happen. I always use the example of a company like Uber. If you didn't make the software, the behavior of actually just getting a cab whenever you want on an app just wouldn't be possible. So if you create software that enables you to go to the doctors and it's the norm, then hopefully it will become the norm, because I would do it in the app. It allows me to say that I'm picking up the kids at 4, therefore need to finish at 4 or 3. 3:30 maybe, depends on, I can't remember what time the kids actually finish school. But I think you have to, if you can build software, that's one part of the way you can help. But I'm sure there's others. So, same question.
Yeah, well, mine might be a twofold answer.
Oh.
ever unconventional. I think probably from a business perspective, it would be to have more people at the top from more minorities, for the obvious reasons that we've all discussed today, and to be able to see that and just develop many more opportunities for lots of people and for everybody. But actually, the other element that I feel quite passionately about is finding the joy. So I think that actually we have teams, we do individually, or we have employees and businesses that really feel kind of passion and joy within people, because we spend a long time working, and happier people mean happy societies, mean more engagement, more everything, and I think it's about finding the joy. So that's what I suggest.
Right. And the bonus question, and refrain from asking it all the way through, because I think you should get asked it all the time.
I can guess
you can hate it. What's Lord Sugar like?
I want to hear that too.
Amy's heard the answer to this a million times. Our wonderful head of marketing. He is exactly, capital letters, exactly as he seems on TV.
Yeah. I'd imagine that. It seems like he's exactly like that.
Exactly. I just recently had a board meeting. We were talking about the shares in the business, and he was talking about his printer.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I hope it wasn't the Ricoh one.
Yeah.
I hope it was a good printer.
And we had to pause the meeting whilst he sorted out his printer.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
You stopped the whole meeting while he sorted out a printer?
Oh, yeah. Everyone stops for Lord Sugar. So, yeah.
It's weird now. I know now. So if you didn't know, Scarlett was on The Apprentice.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think he's your main investor.
Yeah, he is. He is.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
So weirdly now, I know 2 people from Birmingham that were on The Apprentice and that were backed by Lord Sugar. I'm like, how does that happen? In Birmingham, of all places.
You are well connected.
It's so strange. Just so
or
strange.
not so much, I don't know.
Well, maybe I watch a lot of TV and follow people from the TV. Great. Yeah. Asked it at the end rather than the start in case it was a terrible answer. No, I don't like to answer these questions. I'd rather not do this podcast anymore. Oh, so sorry. Great. Well, thank you all for being here. I think my closing thought would be companies like Ricoh, who are quite large and I think have a large reach, I think also have a big responsibility to not only internally preach what we'd like people to be, so whether it's fulfillment through work, whether it's hiring diverse talent, whether it's helping the future of workplace and not having to focus on money, whether it's building really cool stuff. I think companies of the size of Ricoh, who have been around for nearly 100 years, have a personal responsibility to do that, but also working with partners such as yourselves to be able to make sure that we are having diverse thought in the things that we build together. So hence why I think inviting you all here, some from not so far, some from really far away, will really help us do that. So thank you for being here. I think it's been really great.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thanks.
We good?
That's a wrap.
Great.